Welcome back to Safeguard Safety 6 series. I have the privilege today of interviewing Mike Burzek. Welcome, Mike.
Hi.
A little bit about Mike. He's been directly involved with occupational health and safety, as well as in emergency response since 1991. His educational background is quite extensive. Health sciences from UNBC, emergency medicine from JIBC, advanced safety management from Ryerson University. Presently, he's working towards his master's degree in environmental health and safety. Mike, you've been with the Oil and Gas Commission since 2007?
Yes, that's correct.
And we met in 2008.
Yes.
Since then, you've moved on to a current position of Director of Public Protection and Safety, right?
That's right.
Excellent. Those are very impressive credentials. But before we get into the questions, give us a short safety quote that kind of resonates with who you are.
The quote that resonates with me the most is, make people the number one priority, not processes or problems.
We could talk about that all day alone right there.
Right.
The format today is 6 questions. We're going to start out easy and we're going to get harder and harder. Are you ready, Mike?
Sure.
Question number 1. What's one of the biggest pieces of advice you'd give to a beginner safety representative?
Well, I think it kind of ties into my quote there earlier on, is focus on people, not the problems. You know, this is a very common mistake in a lot of organizations where they look at the frequency of incidents or injuries and all of a sudden they think they've got a huge problem. Well, identify what those problems are, trend them, keep track of them and analyze them, of course, but look at the people. What are the root causes for some of the incidents from occurring? What do your people that make up your program, that need your program, what are their needs? Do they need more training? Do they need more awareness? And once you focus on the people, I find typically the problems go away.
Great advice. So many of the successful companies that we deal with constantly focus on their people and have very good people processes in place. Question number 2. What books or videos or other sources of information would you recommend listeners?
Oh, that's a challenging question to answer, Jeff. I would start that with a word of caution. Be mindful of information overload. I think what's really important is networking with other safety representatives. Rub shoulders with them. Go to the conferences. Go to the lunch and learns. Really get to know the right kind of people. What books are they reading or they've written? Articles, videos that are suitable. Find out what's relevant to your area of expertise and your workplace. You know, there's many blogs and websites, links to amazing information. Again, word of caution, you got to kind of sort out, filter what's not appropriate for what you can use.
In the past year, what's been your biggest resource for networking, Mike?
Biggest resource have actually been blog sites where they've had links to safety sources. I found great sites from, Australia and the UK. Again, each jurisdiction is different. They might have different requirements, but the fundamentals are the same. You can get great information.
Excellent. Question number 3. Every safety professional has one of those aha moments that impacts them, that the world around them just makes a lot more sense. Please give us one of your biggest aha moments.
Well, probably with any experienced safety professional, there's a lot of those. I think one really that sticks out in my mind is probably about 12 years ago. One day, I just came to the conclusion that not everyone is passionate about safety. Not everyone has that level, that warm and fuzzy feeling about making sure everybody gets home uninjured or make sure they get home alive. Mm-hmm. It's easy to talk the talk, right? Another thing to walk the walk, as the cliche goes. I think second, one of those moments came to me a couple of years ago when I realized there's a curious phenomenon occurring, and I'd never noticed this before. And actually there's a lot of white papers and articles making the same observations that I've made. And that is there's a risk tolerance, right, within every corporation or organization. And the safety professional must really assess an organization's level of acceptance for losses. Otherwise you're kind of fighting a losing battle. If the company's risk tolerance is very high, maybe you ought to focus on educating them about their risk tolerance, that maybe it's not appropriate in terms of today's safety culture. Because every decision the entity makes will essentially be based on its risk tolerance. Similar to gambling. Some people, they have no objection to going Las Vegas and putting $5,000 on the table, knowing that the odds are so much against them. Others, they're not even going to buy a lottery ticket. So again, ask yourself the question as a safety professional, what am I getting myself into? What is the risk tolerance of this organization?
Do you think that would influence their ability to do hazard assessments and what type of hazard assessment they would do, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. I think this would be an indicator of their understanding. How do you do a thorough hazard analysis if you don't even appreciate the risk of your operations? How do you focus on the priorities if you have not identified what is the highest risk for your organization? I think many companies that understand this and get the right people to do their risk assessments have learned this. They've learned that, where we've been focusing our efforts and our money and our time on isn't that we don't have the right priorities. We have to focus on the areas that are high risk.
Excellent answer. Question number 4. The biggest safety-related mistake that you have witnessed in your career. This can be one of your mistakes. This can be an outside mistake. And what takeaway did you get from it?
Well, obviously it'd be difficult to point out my own mistakes, but we'd all like to say that we don't make them. But yeah, it's a great analytical question. I think, I guess I would answer this in terms of what are the ongoing mistakes or the repeated mistake in the workplace of many organizations. And that's the focus on lagging indicators rather than the leading indicators for safety performance metrics. I mean, any safety professionals listening will be very familiar with those terms. But we have to ask ourselves, what exactly are we looking at for safety performance? What's important to the organization? For example, a lagging indicator would be, well, we've had X number of incidents last year. We want to improve that by 50%. Or another real common one is our goal is target zero incidents for this year. Rather than looking at training, for example, participation in safety meetings. Are we compliant with our own program? And are we doing what we're actually committing to on paper?
And to look at leading indicators requires us to focus on staff behavior, which leads us into our next question.
Okay, question number 5. Imagine I gave you 90 days to mentor an entry-level safety rep. You need to give them your decades of wisdom, and then you're gone at 90 days. What would you tell them?
Well, I think mentorship is a great concept. I don't think there are many. If there are any, I'd be surprised even if there's mentorship programs with safety professionals. If I were given 90 days, I'd really first assess the person's values. That would be the starting point. What is his or her attitude towards safety? Are they looking at those intrinsic values? Are they the right individuals for the type of work? Too many people have been delegated the role of health and safety for their respective organizations simply based on optics or to ensure that the company is compliant with regulations. That is, it looks good on paper to have the safety coordinator or this person that is the go-to guy or gal for any safety concerns. That's not enough. You have to really look at making sure that this person really fits in the role of the health and safety portfolio.
I've seen so many safety reps that have been given some amazing tools to work with, yet because, like you say, you're not focusing on the individual, they haven't been able to use those tools properly. So that's great advice. The last question, the hardest one. You mentioned intrinsic value in your last answer, Mike. We at Safeguard believe that one of the keys to a successful corporate safety program is intrinsic value. Okay, this is where the employees buy into the safety program for their own personal reasons. Please give us an example from your experience where you've helped create intrinsic value in one of the safety programs you've been part of overseeing.
Yeah, well, that really does tie into my own personal values. That's exactly, if you want to call it, my years of wisdom and experience. I've had to learn that. I've had to learn that you must build intrinsic value in every aspect of safety. That's not an easy thing. I guess one of the examples I'd share is the Oil and Gas Commission. We recognized that driving vehicles was a high-risk activity for our employees. So we finally initiated a safe driver program in 2012. This was after demonstrating to executives that driving incidents were costing the organization a lot of money. So we implemented the program, and here's the motto we encouraged was all roads lead to home. In other words, practice safe driving everywhere, not just on the job, but when you're traveling abroad. Doesn't matter if you're in a rental vehicle, your own personal vehicle, practice safe driving. And it was a huge success. I mean, we took the number of incidents, average of 10 per year, down to 1. Costs were drastically reduced to the point where our insurance premiums were reduced as well. So the savings, just in terms of dollars and cents, is a big factor. They say safety, does it pay? Absolutely. Were we successful in developing and encouraging that concept of intrinsic value? Did we place that on the employees? Yes. And I think it was just a great example of building intrinsic value into a program.
And what's even harder to measure in such circumstances is the increase in staff morale, the decrease in turnover, the increase in team spirit. All that goes well with what you're talking about, Mike.
Well, absolutely, because if all of us have to drive a vehicle, generally speaking, and we were able to demonstrate what you learn in the workplace, take that home with you. You have to kind of delve into people's lives a little bit. Don't be afraid to rub shoulders with them. Find out who they are. What are they about? And if we can improve safety performance at home and at work, who knows what we've been able to accomplish.
Powerful advice, Mike. So I'm going to wrap this up here now. If you like some of the advice that Mike has given, he's also done a Safety Sleuth series and a few other articles on our website. Feel free to go to safeguardtraining.ca for more of that. Thank you so much for your time, Mike.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.